Healthy Rebel Radio is sponsored by the Healthy Rebel app. 300 plus secretly healthy, delicious, mouth-watering dessert and treat recipes made with all-natural, whole food ingredients. Now available for download on the App Store and Google Play. Find out more details at healthyrebel.com.
Welcome to Healthy Rebel Radio. I'm your host, Dr. David Deiser. I'm here with my Damien Health Healthy Rebel co-founder, Amy Lane. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a few quick health and wellness stories to review today. We should start with one that we've already spoken about privately. It's extremely important to us, and it's very simple, but this is probably the biggest study I've ever seen. It's the study that showed that exercise was tied to a lower risk of 13 different cancers. I mean, it's pretty basic, and we all know exercise is part of a healthy lifestyle, and there's many reasons to exercise, but reduction in risk of 13 different types of cancer. I read through the study. It's awesome. It's like 1.4 million people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not a small study.
No, it's not. The average amount of exercise that was associated with the reduction of risk was 1.5 hours a week. So it's about the same, a little less than the reduction in diabetes and cardiovascular disease exercise, which is 150 minutes.
So that would be what, a day?
Well, 90 minutes a week. It's not very much.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. You want to get to 150 minutes a week, though. I think it's better.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is such a huge study. They could see, okay, these people's patterns were associated with, or were correlated with, and then tracking the different cancer rates. Skin cancer and prostate cancer were higher in those who exercised more, and they think that's correlated. This is because we're talking 1 million people here. We're talking that people who were outside a little more probably had more incidence of skin cancer, and people who exercise more are probably a little healthier in general and get prostate checks. Most men get prostate cancer,
and they say these days that, well, what I've read, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I very well could be, but these days you basically die with prostate cancer, not of prostate cancer.
That's exactly right.
So
yes.
It's one of those things that's manageable at this stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they think it's probably because they were getting checked up more.
Right.
Which makes sense.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, it's always nice to have a reminder about exercise because it's so easy to just be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or, it's more about diet. Or
once you surrender to it being like brushing your teeth, you really get over it. Like, I used to be one of those people that, first of all, motivation to exercise was to try to get skinny. Yeah. And it was torture to do it. It was torture while I was doing it. Like, I used to do it on a treadmill. I just count the minutes. It was torture. Mm-hmm. And, I used to have to really rev myself up to get it done. Now, fast forward to, 8 years later? Mm-hmm. Exercise is like eating to me. It is like meditating. It is like brushing my teeth. It's like showering. I would never begrudge it, first of all, because I feel so blessed to be able to do it. And there's so many people that are constantly, that are just, would love to have their health back. So I would never begrudge it. I think it's disrespectful to everybody that is facing health consequences that would love to have the opportunity to be able to just physically be active. So I come from it from a deep place of gratitude. I'm so respectful and grateful for my body. And also, I understand the richness of it. It's money in the bank. It's fuel in my tank. It's the foundation of everything. And when you switch your mindset about it and then you just get into the routine of it, and honestly, it doesn't take long. I know that we think it does and it's torturous at first, but if you can commit for 3 weeks every single day to exercising and doing something that feels right to you, not just what the girl down the street that has a nice butt is doing. I mean, that is good advertising if she has a great tush. But, do what feels good. Like, if I was the type of person that felt right now that I had to go to classes, because that's what I'm invited by people all the time, and it's so genuine and sweet of them, generous and sweet of them to invite me to classes, but I'm a lone wolf when it comes to workouts. I'm not a class person. So if I was just starting today and thought, okay, well, these girls are really fit and they're inviting me and I started going, it would be really hard for me to get zhuzhed up for that. Now, classes are amazing and I wish I was the type of person that enjoyed classes. But
I see the benefit.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's accountability. It's if you're into being social and people will push you, right? So they're awesome. And what I'm just trying to say is, highlight is, find what feels good once you actually break past that barrier of your ego trying to stop you from doing it at all.
Yes. But I love the idea of just making it part of the routine, like brushing your teeth. Like, we all see the value in brushing your teeth.
I really made it in my head once I started the workouts. Like, I told myself it's as ridiculous as complaining about brushing your teeth.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting, your example, because exercise for you was all about weight loss. And for me, like my story yesterday, exercise for me was about being a better athlete. That was it. That was the only reason. Right? I mean, as a young kid, I was obsessed with health, so maybe that there was something.
But but it was also anxiety driven because you weren't actually thinking about health.
No, it was more about performance, I have to say.
It still was, but you could cloud that and say it's health. I mean, we know a lot of people that think they're really healthy that, you know what I mean, have swung to obsession, which I think is more detrimental than doing nothing, right?
So looking at it like you're brushing your teeth is key.
Yeah, I mean, taking life a little more lightly and understanding that it's just kind of ridiculous to go on and on as an adult about things that are just fundamental that we have to do. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. And if you can get to a place where it's embarrassing for you, that's where the real change happens. Like, I love getting to a place of embarrassment to drive myself to change.
Yeah, I know. It's an uncomfortable place for most people to be at. But you thrive in that area.
It's completely uncomfortable, and that's why it's so awesome. Like, all these emotions are here for us to utilize. It's just that we try to shy away from them, and then we never really experience them, and then we never really change.
Right.
So if you get to a place where, oh my gosh, I'm complaining about working out, like just a fundamental thing that we all have to do that makes our lives better, makes me feel better, makes my life, makes me live longer, like everything is better when I work out. How ridiculous is that? I'm going to quit today.
For those who have been affected by cancer, that's another core reason. If your family has been affected by cancer in a negative way, you can see the importance. I
mean, and the other thing that I always use the experience of loving people that I've lost to cancer is I always take from that experience respecting them. And it really drives me to be better. It really drives me to do better out of respect for them. Yeah. You know, like I say all the time, like watching people that I've loved lose their physical function, if they could, they would probably slap you across the face if they heard you go, oh, I gotta go work out for 30 minutes.
Oh, totally.
Like, they'd be like, do you understand how blessed you are? Do you understand what a gift it is to be mobile, to get out there and do things? I would give anything for that today. And I think that that's the most humbling.
That's powerful. I can't even hear you talk.
Yeah, like it makes serious. Because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, and why wouldn't you use that experience and then respect and honor that experience and then go forth and do your best?
Right.
Because I know that anybody that loves you, that you've lost, wants the best for you. And if they could speak to you and write out everything they now can see past the veil, you know, they'd want you to live your best life. And that includes being a physically, mentally healthy person. End of story.
Exactly. That's an interesting way of looking at it, because I don't believe that most people see it that way. We are obsessed with loss in our culture, and we take it personally. Yeah, in a different way. In a different way. I mean, this is the way you put it. I mean, this is emotional, of course, but it's also very motivating.
It's powerful, and powerful things bring up emotions. It's real, you know. It's really powerful. And I feel like all life experiences are here for us, and we have to utilize them. Yeah. And especially when it comes to respecting other people, I'm very clear on that.
And it leads to you respecting yourself more. And in talking about respecting yourself more, I mean, we're talking about cancer prevention, but there was an article on Psychology Today this morning, written by a psychologist, talking about food addiction and overeating. And it ties to emotional overeating. Okay? And what they were talking about was this concept of insecure attachment, and how people who have experienced difficulties in relationships or quote-unquote failed relationships are more prone to emotional eating, and why is that? And this idea of insecure attachment. So basically, when you lose a relationship, or you lose a loved one, or you break up with someone, or you go through a difficult time in a relationship, why is that tied to emotional eating? And why are those patterns?
I can think of
correlated?
2 reasons.
Well, I want to hear what you had to say. That's why I wanted to bring it up. I know a lot of people struggle with emotional eating.
I can think of 2 separate things.
Tell me.
So a lot of the times what we experience is just kind of a repetition of what we've experienced before, and then we're supposed to be learning the lesson, and it kind of repeats until we actually learn the lesson. So I would say a lot of people with emotional eating, not all, but a lot, have come from either emotionally abusive homes where food is used as a tool, or they witness someone emotionally abuse food. Use food in emotional abuse. That's
I can see that.
Right? So then you grow up, and a lot of the times what we're seeking in a partner, what we find, because we're not properly seeking, is what we're comfortable with, not what we desire, what we want, or what we deserve.
We're looking for comfort.
We just look for what we're familiar with. So if you come from a situation where someone breeds instability and brings up those insecurities for you, and that, unhealthy habits around eating, whatever, even though it's not good for you, you understand it, you get that rhythm, you recognize it, and you're like, oh, I can be with this person.
That's right.
That's why a lot of people end up with, quote unquote, their dads or their moms, right? Because it's not what's good for you necessarily. It's what you've experienced, and you're like, oh, I know this song. Mm-hmm. I know this. Oh, I'm comfortable with this. I can do this dance. Mm-hmm. You're not outside of yourself saying, wait, what's healthy for me? Mm-hmm. What's good for me? What do I need? What plays on my anxieties? That type of thing. That's one thing I would say. And then, what lead me back in?
Well, I mean, the other concept is this feeling of comfort when we eat certain foods that are associated with our childhood, like that have been associated with reward, right? And then the cycle of shame and self-abuse after that reward is not accomplished.
Yeah, but I was thinking we were talking about the reasons why. The lead-in.
Yeah, sure. The lead-in is that people who have a history of failed relationships, quote unquote failed, or relationships that don't succeed, have higher instances of emotional eating.
Right. So that's the one I would express, is that we're used to it. We've seen it. Mm-hmm. We just bring it on. But the other thing is that I think that it's, some of us have conditioned ourselves that that's how you find comfort. So obviously failed relationships is a very devastating human experience. And then that's when you're left alone to console yourself. So if you don't choose, something different, you just fall into old habits. Emotional eating is really easy. Yeah,
it is. And I think the other thing you're trying to get at, or you're touching on a bit, is filling a void. The replacement of a lost loved one, or a change in relationships, filling that void with food.
Definitely.
It's very, very common. And why is that? Why do we see that?
Well, it sets off quick endorphins. It's easy. It doesn't take effort. I mean, I think it's really quite simple. The other thing about humans that I find really interesting, and I've observed a lot, and I observed it in myself, and what really changed, and I didn't realize that it was something that I really changed, and it really did lift a lot, is that in humans, for some reason, well, I kind of know the reason. We're taught when we're young, through media, through people, through, TV shows, movies, whatever, that we're supposed to lock certain things down. So we're supposed to get a certain job and have it. We're supposed to be in a certain relationship and have it. We're supposed to live a certain lifestyle, then we have it. And then it's locked down, and then that's it. Life is fluid. There's no such thing as avoiding change. And there's this really weird lie that runs through the human condition, that we believe that we should be avoiding change
Mm-hmm.
in all areas. We don't believe in fluidity. We believe there's, the one person we're supposed to be with, and the one job we're supposed to have, and the one place we go to do yoga, and the one place we go to eat. And we try to lock these things down. And it's not real. There's no such thing. Life is fluid. It's always moving. It's always changing. It's always evolving. So trying to hang on to something that's always slipping away gives you a running anxiety that you don't recognize. So you can't fix it because it's just in the background. You don't realize that you've been told this lie, and you don't realize what you're doing. Try to hang on to a person or hang on to a relationship instead of setting someone free. Even in marriage vows, like we found that when we were going through writing our marriage vows, they were all about now we're together and we're gonna do this forever. And, like
that was so funny.
There's no change. Don't you change?
It struck us very funny.
Don't you change, and I won't change, and this is how it is now, and no matter what happens, it's me and you to the death. And I just found it threatening because
you would.
I just thought, well, this is a strange way to head into a fluid, lifelong. Like, my prayers for you is that you're always evolving and changing. But if I was still an ego, you evolving and changing would scare me, and I would feel you're going to leave me, you're going to find someone better, you're going to find something better, you're going to grow out of me, and then I would try to hang on to you. And then in trying to hang on to you, I would have a running anxiety, and I'd probably be downstairs right now eating Haagen-Dazs and Fritos, or whatever people eat.
What's a Frito?
I had them when I was little.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think so. It just struck me funny that just came out.
Where did that come from?
I'm 80. Anyway.
No, I think it is a thing.
I think it's a thing, too. I'm going to Google it later.
I think it might be the home company of Lay's chips.
Anyway.
Frito Lay's.
What I'm trying to say is, I think there's a lot of running anxieties that we don't recognize that are human condition lies. Mm-hmm. That once we acknowledge them, a lot of these things that we think are major issues that are ours, that are incurable, that have been in our families for generations, that we've had our whole life experience, they're much easier to deal with, and they slough off. Yeah. And if I was still trying to hang on to, okay, get the job, get the house, get the car, get the man, get the, this is what we do, this is what our relationship is, he can't change, this is what you do, this is what, I know of myself that was a playing background running anxiety that I didn't recognize, and that kept me trapped in emotional eating because it's a lie. There's no such thing. People change, relationships change, people die, jobs end, relationships evolve, hopefully.
I don't know if you heard that, if anyone else heard it, but as you were saying that, Oscar was sighing because he was so emotionally distraught. He was like, oh.
Yeah, he's my dog that...
Shoot.
Yeah, He feels what I'm saying.
Yeah, he gets it. He gets it. So I think that there is this correlation with emotional eating, and we see it, and I think all these reasons are valid, and just acknowledging it is...
A lot of times emotional eating, as much as we put it into it's an out-of-control thing, it's actually a cry for control. That's something that if you can just bring that into your consciousness and observe... A
cry for control.
Like most people, like myself, work trying to control things. So externally, and I would eat ridiculously, controlled. I would basically starve myself, and I was neurotic, and only certain things came in my home, and I measured everything, and I measured every step I took, and I was one of those people. I calculated every calorie, whatever, and then I would lose my mind because something would happen. A friend would betray me. I didn't like a guy, or someone was rude to me, or someone got sick in my family, life changed, well, this isn't how it's supposed to be, I'm doing everything by the book, and then I would go off the rails. So a lot of the time, it is like a control thing that's underlying there. And once you release that, and once you relax into life, and you realize that things are meant to be fluid, and you do your best, and you put your most energy into certain areas that are the most important to you, that you want results from, and then you let it go. You relax into it, like the ocean. If you go into the ocean and you're stiff as a board and you're acting all weird, you're going to sink, right?
Well, I sink anyways.
Well, that's a whole other story. But if you want to float, you have to relax into the ocean.
It's true.
Right? And that's life. And it's changing and it's always evolving, and it should be something that's celebrated.
Mm-hmm. And talking about that, I think the other aspect to consider is the unconsciousness of emotional eating. I don't feel like I'm an emotional eater, but I can be an overeater when I'm overworked.
100%. And that's the other thing. Like, you know, overeating is a very easy, it's not dirty like drinking or drugging kind of deal. You know, it doesn't have that connotation.
It doesn't have the connotation.
So there's all kinds of different layers of, I've seen women that overeat because, they don't feel good enough and they feel like they can never be whatever.
It's not possible.
I've seen women overeat because, and when we get down to the bottom of it, it's because they just are so not who they thought they would be, and they have pretended to be this person in society for so long that they feel hidden, so they just actually hide from society by putting this barrier up around. And then I've met women that, keep extra weight on because they feel like if they were sexually attractive, maybe they wouldn't remain in the relationship they're in. So they keep themselves buried and isolated in. There's a lot of different layers. Women, there's women that have been victims of sexual assault. A lot, there's been a correlation between trying to hide yourself. And a great way to hide yourself is to put on that extra weight. So there's many different reasons, but if we can get down to, the basis of like running anxieties and fear and like whether you're controlling something or whether you're resisting life or what you're hiding from, I think that's everybody can change. Everybody can release it. It's not something that you have and then you have to maintain for the rest of your life. It's something you can live free from. Now, I think it is something like an alcoholic. Like, I'm very... Like, David would think I was strict with what I let in and what I don't. And David will have treats often and say, oh, just have a bite, just try it. And I'm like, no, that's a gateway for me. Like, if I have a bite of that, my endorphins are going to set off, and then I'm going to want 10. So, there's certain things that I just can't have. And I don't feel trapped by it at all. It's just I understand my boundaries now.
Yes, and your triggers.
My triggers. So I feel like it is a bit like an alcoholic. Like it'll always kind of be there in the background, and as long as I continually make the choice not to feed that demon, I'm good. Yeah.
I think the basics of this is self-understanding, having self-compassion, figuring out...
honestly with yourself, and looking at those ugly spots of ourselves.
It's like a self-audit.
It's looking at the ugly spots of yourselves, but understanding it's like a child with a bad habit. Like, it's not good, but it doesn't make you a bad person. No. It's not good, but it doesn't make you ugly.
And it's just a snapshot. Like, this is what we were talking about yesterday with the path. It's just a snapshot of today.
Yeah. And really...
and it's fluid, like you're saying.
And these quote-unquote problems in our life are actually our gifts. And that is twisted to say when you're in it, because it doesn't feel that way. But once those are healed, and once we actually look at them, those are our empowering gifts. Those are our spots where the light comes in. Those are our cracks where the healing and the brightness and the good comes in. There's no greater reward than actually dealing with your stuff and healing it.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
That's Healthy Rebel Radio for today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Amy, for sharing your tips. Have a great day.
See you.
Healthy Rebel Radio is presented by the online health and wellness center, DamieHealth.com. Since 2009, Amy Lane has successfully coached thousands of women through her signature program, the Bikini Body Program. Join today to work exclusively with Amy to unveil your greatest yet to be from the inside out. Go to DamieHealth.com for more information.
Thank you for listening to Healthy Rebel Radio. Please connect with us on our community pages on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram, all at the handle @DamieHealth. For weekly recipes, articles, and all our episodes straight to your inbox, join our newsletter at DamieHealth.com. You can find all the links discussed in today's episode in the show notes. Thank you for joining us, and see you tomorrow.